I just don't know whether to start with the fact, the excitement, the enthusiasm over the possibility that there might be a day 2 punter drafted this year. I don't know whether to start with that or, Dani, with the following quote. Here we go. It is 2026. They ought to be able to some way put me in the picture, end quote. That's the aftermath of the league meetings at the Biltmore. Can you identify who said that?
There's only two possibilities.
Sean McVay for 100, Paul.
Well, wait a minute, Darren. Would you like to counter?
I mean, Todd Monken and his haircut.
Because the follow-up quote is, there's major disappointment. That's why I went and got a haircut, for Pete's sake.
I had a 50-50 shot.
I wouldn't have got a haircut if it wasn't that dang important. And then the interviewer said, fantastic haircut, though. And he goes, you're darn right it is. He's all, unfortunately, it led me to miss the head coaching picture, but it does look pretty good, my haircut.
Pretty on brand for Cleveland.
Couple different points to make. Number one, did we ever find out why Sean McVay wasn't in the picture? Did he ever come clean on? Because it's certainly not a haircut thing, because I'm pretty sure he's always coiffed well ahead of schedule.
Well, he might have been picking up the bill for the Jay Glazer head coaching happy hour that they do.
True.
That was after.
Supposedly, Sean McVay picked up the tab on that one this year.
Wow.
So that might have.
Well, since I missed the guess 50-50, I actually retroactively would like you to start with the punter. I changed my mind.
Brett Thorson is his name. He punts for Georgia, if you're an SEC or Georgia fan, and he's said to be the best punting prospect in quite a long time. He won the Ray Guy Award.
Not the Ray Gun.
The Ray Guy Award. See, that tells you all the difference.
I was going to say, I know Ray Guy, not personally. He's a Hall of Famer, you know.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And by the way, Ray Guy, once upon a time, you can fact check me on this one, was a first-round draft pick, believe it or not.
I believe that's true.
As a punter. So
Al Davis, you can't sneak it past him.
Yeah. Although, Dani, I don't want to usurp what you have coming up. This edition of Cardinals Underground, by the way, Dani, Sureck, Darren Urban, yours truly, Paulie podcast over here. What you have coming up?
Did we volunteer to show up today, Paul?
And we'll get into that. I saw this headline that AI-generated singers routinely rank among the top streamed country music artists in the U.S.
What?
Do you even know if you're listening to an AI-generated singer on your Spotify?
Well, I don't listen to a lot of country.
Okay. Well, you're from Texas, though.
I know. I understand the confusion, and I went to school in Missouri, Paul.
Yes, exactly.
Don't own a bear. Cowboy boots.
Is Missouri South?
It's the Midwest,
right.
But there's a lot of rural towns in Missouri. So there's a lot of parts that are, the nicest way to describe them would be country. I think that's the most respectable way to describe a lot of stereotypical small Missouri towns.
Okay. All right, here's another quote. I'll do a hard segue here. We are here to talk football, by the way. And this is a momentous day in some aspects, considering it's day one of the Mike LaFleur era. If you're a Cardinals player.
Woohoo, we made it.
Yep. So, in fact, it was Zaven Collins saying earlier today that he made it very clear, Mike LaFleur, during a team meeting, very clear, no confusion, how he wants his ship ran, quote, end quote. You can tell he's a no BS guy, said Zaven Collins. So there you go. He's off and running.
One day, baby.
One day in.
One meeting.
There you go.
One
workout.
One workout of some weights and some running a little bit.
Super Bowl, here we come.
You got to win the day.
You do have to win the day.
You can't win a game if you don't win the day.
I mean, Hjalte Froholdt talking about, like, I did like how Hjalte Froholdt was talking about how all the details matter. Because I was kind of like, do you kind of want to slow roll this? Like, because at first, Hjalte's like, let's not jump ahead to, like, winning games. You got to do the details. And then I'm like, okay, so do you kind of slow roll this? And he's like, well, no, I'm not saying you slow roll it. This is all still very important. It's just much smaller detail, but these are the things you have to get right away.
You got to be where your feet are, Darren.
Yeah, that's true. And for me, my feet are in April and nowhere near football, so it's kind of hard to wrap my head around it right now.
Yeah. It is exciting. It's the start. So teams that have a new head coach get a head start on when they can begin their off-season program. So this is it's voluntary strength and conditioning, and then the head coach can get involved in meetings. So that's where the line is drawn.
But don't you feel like, it's a little Grand Canyon-esque when it comes to this kinds of things? And let me explain this fine analogy that I'm making. when you, of course, get to the Grand Canyon, you kind of get up there for the first time, and you're like, oh, okay, there it is, this big hole. Not that it's not important, but it's just, it's just there.
Really? You don't walk up and say, this is the seventh wonder
Well,
of the world?
you might, but how long is that going to
Not
get you?
Darren.
That's 30 minutes.
It's got to be a little bit beyond. This is a big hole.
That's
like
fine.
It's a quarry or something.
This is what it reminds me. Like we're like, okay, here we're gonna go. We're gonna get to the first day of workouts, voluntary workouts. And then it's here. It's like, okay, now it's here. And we get to like the first day of training camp. Yes, training camp is starting. And then by like the second practice, is like, okay, it's training camp. And then the first preseason game, like, I can't wait for a real game. And then you're about a quarter into that first preseason game, like, is the regular season here yet?
Well, buckle up because we got an extra preseason game this year, Darren.
That's true.
Well, yeah, but you skipped right over the most momentous day of the offseason.
Vacation?
First day in pads.
Oh, sorry.
First day in pads. Who's ready for the season and who's not? I mean, just based on
first day in pads when?
First day, 5 days into a training camp. The first day in pads should be like a state holiday, and then boom, there's O-line, D-line.
I did have someone ask me that recently of, are you ready for football to be back? And my response was, I'm still enjoying my vacation time.
We just started April. We haven't even paid our taxes yet, people.
Well, speak for yourself on that one.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
I got a big bill coming, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
a big bill.
Mr. Moneybags over there.
It sounds like his earnings. It was a good year. Good year to be Darren Urban, apparently. Okay. Things are a little robust. He didn't forecast accordingly, apparently, because he exceeded, just like Hanrahan in sales. He exceeded his quota, apparently, so that's good. Okay.
I've always been the type of person, though, that, like, Paul, are you different? Like, are you paying, like, as you go? Aren't you, like, keeping all your money until you have to give it to them at the last minute?
No, I try and match as much as I can.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. Trying to minimize it, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no free lunch to the government. I'm not. So we'll see. Also, 2 years ago, someone might have been fined, so I can't let that happen again. So it wasn't really my fault. Change tax people, they weren't equipped for the job. We had to make a move.
Was it AI? AI wasn't trying to do your taxes, was it?
I made an off-season move at the end of January myself 2 years ago. So sometimes you have to make a decision here or there. Dani, anything to bail us out?
I have nothing to add. I'm here enjoying this.
Yeah. So there was Zaven, there was Hjalte. What else stood out from the two players meeting the media? It's been a while since we interviewed players, obviously, and it was good to see those two guys. Zaven Collins dropping a little knowledge. The second longest tenured player on the roster, other than Budda Baker. Did anyone fact check that? That's accurate, isn't it? It is, right?
I'm pretty sure. Like, he was the draft class of 2021. And so I can't imagine anybody else who's here from before that other than Budda.
Okay. Wow.
Because Jalen Thompson left.
Yeah, Jalen being gone.
See, it's not fair. In some ways, I was going to ask this question, but I stopped short, and I'm glad I did. I was going to say, Hjalte is a little unfair that Zaven is a long-tenured guy, but he doesn't have to learn a whole new scheme or a whole new playbook. Yet you, on the offensive side, have to learn a whole new language, So there should, speaking of compensation, maybe a little something extra for the offensive guys in terms of an off-season bonus, because they have to learn a whole new playbook.
It was funny, though, that Hjalte then said, like, he can't remember the last time the head coach was in his offensive meetings. So there's a give and a take there.
Okay.
One of the positives is there's consistency in that room specifically with Justin Fry and being the coach there. So they have some consistency in the O-line room. They've added some bodies, but you still have some consistency for the players there. I am curious, though. I know I was going to ask this question that was asked right before of Froholdt said he's not one to really pay close attention to the draft, but the amount of times that the Cardinals have been mocked to have an offensive lineman with the third overall pick, I do wonder if he's going to be watching through at least those first 3 picks at the end of the month.
Well,
both those guys. If it isn't tackle, it's going to be edge rusher, right?
And even if we're sitting here saying maybe or maybe not at 3, like, don't we all think that there's going to be an offensive lineman picked in the first 3-4 rounds, period? Like, yeah.
Multiple.
No doubt. No doubt.
If there's that many.
No doubt.
GM Dani Sureck steps up.
All 7 picks, offensive linemen.
Well, Dani and I might agree on this one. Edge rusher at 3, top of round 2, you get the tackle, and then top of round 3, you get the guard.
You and Dani do not agree.
No?
You don't agree.
I thought we did. No. How do you differ?
Sorry to break your heart.
How do you differ?
Just flip-flop. Just given the depth, I would take offensive line at 3. and then I would take an edge rusher at the top of day 2.
Okay.
I don't think either pick is wrong, just because when you're looking at the skill set and the players that are likely to be available and what these draft analysts are predicting, I think you take any of those top edge rushers and it makes a lot of sense and it makes a lot of impact on this defense. There is a fine line, though, between best player available, positions of need, and where you are at. And, one end of the spectrum of best player available is running back, Jeremiah Love, and the Cardinals are just not in a position where that makes much sense. And so you try and find what does make sense, and offensive line is a greater need than edge rusher. Not by much, but right now, who is your starting right tackle? Elijah Wilkinson?
Probably.
It's a greater need than what you have in the edge rusher room right now.
It is interesting, though. One of the last questions. Oh, and Dani Sureck asked it. She asked Hjalte Froholdt about the running back thing. And while he was not asked about Jeremiah Love in particular, it was interesting to hear him say, I keep hearing all these things about, and I'm paraphrasing, but I keep hearing all these things about running back, and there's lots of times where a really good running back can do some things to help an offensive line and gain yards, and it's not always just about the blocking. I thought that was an interesting way to look at it, and who knows, maybe it's the way that this team's going to look at it a little bit if they determine that Jeremiah Love is, I don't know, Barry Sanders incarnate or whatever.
And even if Jeremiah Love isn't the pick for the Cardinals, he's a very important player and piece of the draft for the Cardinals. Because if there's going to be any reason for a team to want to trade with Arizona at 3, it is presumably to take Love off the board before Tennessee at 4.
Yeah, do you have some kind of, once upon a time, you had a little rhymey thing for, having
Let there be a fourth QB.
Yeah, that was the one. So, do you have one that works with Love here? Can you come up with something,
What's
Paul?
Love got to do with it, Paul?
Thanks for remembering 3-4 weeks ago, we threw out there, let there be an RB at number 3.
Yeah, but that's
about as close as we got.
You're ripping yourself off.
It's about as close as we got.
Don't plagiarize yourself.
But, I think that's evolved because let's say David Bailey is there at 3. Because the Jets are going to mess it up, and they'll go with the tweener with Arvell Reese at number 2, and then all of a sudden Bailey is there at 3. So if you're a team like, picking 7th overall the Washington Commanders, and you want an edge guy, and you want to come up to 3 for a guy you think is elite, then all of a sudden maybe the Cardinals say, you know what, we'll go down to 7. We can either get Maui Noah or Spencer Fano.
Here's why I have a big smile on my face is you saying that to 7, and I feel like we open a whole new can of worms down at 7. We can start talking about linebacker Sonny Styles.
Hello.
We can start talking about safety Caleb Downs. And you can make a point for players outside of that need for offensive linemen because now Darren has a face, but now you're in the range of where these players are likely to be picked that can really make an impact for a team that truthfully you can make an argument for any position almost for Arizona.
We're speculating here because that's what we do here on the podcast. So, again, nothing we're saying here is being transmitted upstairs to the GM room, so they don't care what we're saying. Well, they might care what we're saying, but they're not listening to it. How far down would you be willing to trade and be comfortable with it before you got to make a pick?
It all depends on what you're getting in return.
Well, I'm asking.
Isn't there Dallas speculation? The Cowboys want to
too
come
low
up from
for me
12.
At 12?
Well, you could still get one of the top 3 offensive tackles, I believe, at 12. If you are all in on Monroe Freeling, the left tackle for Georgia. A lot of the mock drafts now have Spencer Fano falling to the middle of round 1 because of the short arm factor. So, if you like Fano, then, hey, I'm good going to 12 depending on what Dallas is willing to give up. If what Dallas is willing to give up nets you the ability to then take a Ty Simpson the back half of round 1, or maybe gives you a pick in next year's supposedly, allegedly, theoretically loaded draft, then maybe you go that route.
So right now Dallas has picks 12 and 20 in the first round. So you're saying if Arizona got 12 and 20 for that swap.
Exactly. For number 3.
Interesting.
So you could go Sonny Styles at 12 and even get a tackle still, considering how loaded it is at 20.
You think Sonny Styles is there at 12?
There are quite a few mock drafts that have him falling just because of the, and I hate these 2 words, positional value. Off the ball linebacker.
I can tell you for a fact because I now know this information. I will not get into the details because I don't want to undercut certain people that I know. But like, it's funny that you bring up the positional value and linebacker, because I've heard at the owners' meetings that looking back, and we're looking at the Hall of Fame, and of course one of the fellow Hall of Famers with Larry Fitzgerald is Luke Kuechly, and the Panthers did a great job getting him. Panthers didn't want Luke Kuechly. Panthers wanted somebody else. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to undercut the story that might be written when we get closer to the Hall of Fame, but they were not looking at Luke Kuechly.
And I looked it up.
He was the fallback.
He was number 9 overall.
Was it 9 or 11?
Pretty sure Kuechly was 9.
Oh, maybe Willis was 11. Somebody like that.
So if you had Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis all over again, and I mean Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman, if you have Mac Wilson Sr. and Sonny Styles. I just hashed this out with Lorenzo Alexander on the Red Sea Report. And then I'm passing down second and obvious, third and obvious. All of a sudden,
I
Mac
feel like
Wilson
that's
Sr.
too many Cal Bears on the radio.
Mac Wilson Sr. goes to the edge. And by the way, this season hinges on Lorenzo Alexander working on the defensive coaching staff for the California Golden Bears. He's up there actually pulling double duty.
As long as he can play quarterback.
So Sonny Styles. Ooh, by the way, I'm glad Dani brought up the name. Because
we keep mentioning it?
Because I have info here. I have opinions. Your guy, Pete Prisco, went on CBS Sports.
Go Devils.
And said based on what he's hearing and some of the insiders he's talking to, there's a school of thought that ultimately, the best player in the entire draft might be Sonny Styles. Mike Mayock Sonny Styles might be the best player in this draft ultimately. So you have his athleticism score is one notch behind Jeremiah Love. Overall, like athleticism, next-gen stats, the whole thing. So I'm just saying, if you were to trade down to the back half of the top 10 and still get a Sonny Styles and you pair him up with Mac Wilson Sr., but maybe you get an extra pick that still nets you the tackle, I'd love that formula.
At 3, it makes the most sense to me to take an offensive lineman or an edge rusher. If you trade down and you start to find yourself closer to the back half of the top 10 or the middle of the draft, or that round 1 rather, then these possibilities start to open up. It just kind of depends on where they're deciding to draft. But in terms of where I'd feel comfortable, I would be very intrigued if that were the case with Dallas, of you get 12 and 20. If not, I think Washington at 7 is a good spot where you would still have options for what you need and like.
I would be curious to know. Let's just, for argument's sake, say they were trading with Washington at 7. I wonder what the package back would be for that.
Here's where I think Dani and I disagree, though, is that at 3...
In this case, just in this one specific, because you disagree about a lot of stuff. But go ahead.
If you stick and pick at 3, I just think that's a spot where you can truly get an elite pass rusher, and you can't get an elite pass rusher elsewhere in this draft, except almost in these days. Now, the stinking Rams got pretty lucky with Jared Verse at 16 overall a couple years ago as the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. But for the most part, if you want an elite pass rusher, it's going to be top 5. And so if that guy is David Bailey, you better take him number 3. Whereas if you're looking for a starting right tackle for the next decade, just the fact it's a right tackle, I think you could get away with that at top round 2, or maybe train back into the end of round 1.
Well, not to take away from these prospects by any means, from what people are saying, having looked at their film and who they've talked to in terms of national reporters and analysts, nobody is predicting a Myles Garrett or TJ Watt in this draft. So I'm not here to say elite, so to say. I think these could be very good edge rushers, and those top 3 names of Arvell Reese, David Bailey, Ruben Bain Jr. are all predicted to be impact players from day 1 for their teams. I don't know that I'm ready to say elite for the next 10 years.
See, that's the problem. I'm not getting a super like. Let's go back to what you were just saying, and I forget what was versus first would have been the 24 draft class.
Jared Verse.
Yes.
Like, I'd have to go back and look, and maybe I'm wrong, but would Jared Verse be a top 5 pick in that draft if we redrafted?
That was 2024. He was 19th overall pick.
I think Jared
19th. Wow.
I think Jared Verse is good. I don't put him on at this point. I don't put him on the level of the best pass rushers in the league. I think he's up there. I think you would absolutely want him. I don't think he's... Now, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
If David Bailey ends up being that guy, hey, that's awesome. That's something you need. But again, I don't know if you're getting a future Hall of Famer in the top 3 this year. I just don't know if those guys are there.
Let's go back to the 2023 draft. The fact that the Cardinals moved away from Will Anderson Jr. and took Paris Johnson Jr.
Yep.
Do you think that gives them pause and or any different sort of consideration looking at a David Bailey at number 3 this year?
It's very possible. Here to me, the two schools of thought of you're going to want to make sure whatever route this team is going to take for the future at quarterback when the time comes, that foundation is set. So that would be a large pro of taking a right tackle right now so that whether it's next year, whenever it might be, your offense feels set and ready to go, and you can, in theory, right, get a quarterback and kind of plop him back there, and then the rest should be smooth sailing, right, is ideal. Not always the case, but that's ideal. But on the other hand, defense, this Cardinals defense has lost some players. There's still question marks around whether or not Calais Campbell is going to return for season 19, and they haven't added a ton of players. That makes a lot of reason why it makes sense to draft an edge rusher to really boost this defense.
Lorenzo Alexander brought up a name that we haven't really discussed in a few months, Ruben Bain Jr. What if you trade down to number 7? Once again, usually this is a trade down, although some of the mock drafts now have Ruben Bain Jr. going number 3 overall to the Cardinals. But if you're looking for attitude and just the sheer dog factor, and you want to line up and you're thinking your best way to compete in the NFC West is just to beat up the opponent, just be more physical, hence a Tyler Algier, Isaac Seumalo. If all of a sudden your attitude is, you know what, we're going to cram it vertical on both sides of the line, and we've got the most talented division in the league, so we're going to compete by just being more physical, Ruben Bain Jr. would be a good start.
I'd be very happy with that pick.
I mean, I'm fine. I get concerned about the physical factor. Obviously, we talk about arm length. He does not have great arm length if you're talking about an edge guy, but if you want to talk about a guy who's produced on film and plays the way you want to play, that's a guy. I mean, if the Cardinals stick at 3, what are we thinking? We're thinking 5 names maybe?
Yeah,
Maui Noah, Bain, Bailey, maybe Love, and are we putting Reese in there?
I would say Reese would probably go to New York. Spencer Fano.
Oh no. But we don't know if Reese is going to New York. So I'm saying who's in the bucket of, because I could also easily see the Jets taking Bailey maybe or Bain. Who knows? But if Reese is sitting there, like, is he included in this group?
Definitely.
But I don't think all 3 will be available at 3.
No. I'm yes, you're correct. But I'm saying if we're going into the draft and Mendoza's out, because we're all assuming Mendoza goes first, who's possibly there? It's like when the Cardinals picked 3rd in 2004, Fitz was going to be their guy, but you didn't know if the Raiders were going to take Fitz at 2. Now they ended up taking Robert Gallery. Tough break for them. And the Cardinals were left with Larry Fitzgerald. And by the way, foreshadowing, I will have a story about Larry getting drafted in that whole sequence in about a week before the draft. So
when we talk about trade down, with the exception of the Jeremiah Love desire, is there any other player or reason that a team would want to trade with the Cardinals, or is this all contingent upon somebody trying to take Love from Tennessee?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is like what Paul was saying, is if somebody is in love with an edge rusher who's sitting there, or Reese.
So an edge rusher.
That's what I would think. I don't think it's going to be a tackle. I would think it'd be either Love or a very specific pass rusher, whoever it might be. Yeah. And the only reason it would come up was because the Jets left that person on the board. But even then, going back to what you guys are saying, like the depth at pass rusher can be found. So do you want to give up, draft capital to move up to get a certain guy when is there that much of a drop-off to whoever the next guy is?
Which brings us back to positional value. Are you discounting somebody coming up to number 3 and taking Ty Simpson? I noticed you wrote the.
I am.
You wrote the article on azcardinals.com about the fast rising quarterback, late rising quarterback, whatever the terminology was.
ESPN's Field Yates mentioned Ty Simpson to the Cardinals at 3 in a Cover 2 podcast with Craig Grelu and myself at the Combine in February. So while this has been picking up steam as of late, if you go back and you listen, there are receipts that Field mentioned Ty Simpson to Arizona at 3 months ago.
Do you guys know that Carson Beck, by the way, is known for his ability to solve a Rubik's Cube in under 1 minute?
Carson Beck.
Do you know that?
No, I did not know that.
And then according to
Why would I know that?
This.
Did you know that Josh McCown can easily dunk a basketball? Denny Green once used that as the reason why they didn't want to take a quarterback at 3 in 2004.
Darren, according to this article I'm reading, it highlights Carson Beck's, quote, math-centric intelligence and his quick decision-making, and that the proficiency with the Rubik's Cube is often cited as a reflection of his sharp analytical skills, which he then translates onto the football field for rapid defensive reads. So where's Kurt Warner when you need that one? By the way, here's the other thing.
If that was super important, wouldn't he be higher than a 4th or 5th round pick?
Carson Beck was my guy until the playoffs started, and then
playoffs,
not so much. He's back to being my guy, though. Apparently, he used some of his NIL money to buy himself a brand new Lamborghini last year.
Here's the problem with Paul.
And how much has that depreciated in value since then, Paul?
No games have been played, and Paul's moving quarterbacks up his draft board.
Oh, yeah.
No
Absolutely.
games.
No doubt. Well, it's a discovery process, Darren. You discover things, and as you discover
I'm a little
things,
surprised Carson Beck hasn't been on Getting Cultured, to be honest, with his social media presence or his previous social media
I don't ever see him on my social media.
Wasn't he dating somebody who was on social media?
He was dating someone, a twin who, I know, and I don't even follow them. There were twins who played basketball, and that they're also influencers, and he was dating a twin. One of
those twins went to high school in Gilbert.
Oh, okay. And now one of them is engaged to Jake Ferguson, tight end with the Cowboys.
It always comes back to the Cowboys.
It always comes back to the Cowboys.
Well, as long as we're talking about sensational stuff and quarterbacks and off the field or what have you, do you see Good Morning Football? They did one of these classic Kyle Brandt segments where they did a draft of the quarterbacks you would most like to see featured on Netflix quarterbacks. Because Hard Knocks was announced, 26 and 27, Seahawks and Patriots in that order. And then also at the annual meetings, they said Netflix quarterbacks is coming back.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, number one, are we talking about Gardner Minshew going on that? Is that what we're doing?
Stole my thunder, Darren.
Sorry.
They went through and took 16 quarterbacks between the 4 hosts on Good Morning Football. It was a 4-round draft, 4 participants. All these names, no one took Gardner Minshew.
I will say, it's funny you bring up Hard Knocks because I saw a story and I can't say if this is how the Seahawks ended up there, but somebody said, how did you end up with 2 when it's usually hard just to get 1 and you got the next 2 years? One story out there right now with the Patriots is basically all these teams like to do I don't think this year's a good year, but we can do it next year. So apparently the Patriots allegedly said, well, we can do it next year. And the NFL said, okay, we'll lock you into next year. You're done.
That's good. That is good.
See, I thought you were going to segue into Getting Cultured, and you just threw me there.
Well, we can. We're going to let Darren run this edition of Cardinals Underground here. How about that? He's speaking into existence.
Omo was getting ready to push the button over
Here
there.
we go. Push that button. Just don't push another button at 5 o'clock today. Dani, we'll segue to you.
Getting Cultured with Dani. It is not just directed at Paul.
Am I the default uncultured Philistine around here?
Yes.
You got me very excited now.
I am on social media and consume more pop culture than both of you combined.
I think I'm being unfairly profiled, but go ahead.
Let's go. Around the moon we go. Unless you've been living under a rock, then you are aware of the Artemis 2 mission, where the 4 astronauts circled the moon, the first mission in 50 years to do so. It's expected to end the 10-day mission this Friday.
I can't believe our Jim Almohandra, the biggest Pink Floyd fan ever, doesn't have Dark Side of the Moon rolling right now.
And believe it or not, Paul, the Pastronaut, former Cardinals quarterback Josh Dobbs, was not in the rocket ship.
Yes, but he should be live.
Son of a biscuit.
He should be on C-SPAN right now, breaking
looking for
it
those
down.
aliens.
He should be the guest analyst.
Should be.
The Pastronaut.
He doesn't have a job right now, right? Didn't he get released?
You're right. He did get released.
Don't
by
tell
the
my
Patriots.
boss, but I may or may not have been streaming part of this mission. while still working.
They need to bring Josh Dobbs back for Hard Knocks Patriots next year is what they need to do.
The point of this mission was to test operations, life support systems in deep outer space and prepare for future missions to the moon and Mars. And I wanted to share some moments and stories about this mission that the two of you might not be aware of.
Mac Wilson on there?
So NASA has been playing wake-up songs for the astronauts. Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan was one of them.
Chappell Roan.
Green Light by John Legend and Andre 3000 was one of them. And they played a song, it's Tokyo Drift, maybe is a song. Anyway, the rapper quote tweeted...
It was a good Fast and Furious movie, too.
Quote tweeted NASA's tweet with his song saying that he's gone like interstellar, that he's the first rapper to be played in space, which was fun. But what I did think was cool was I read online that before one of their morning songs was played, an audio recording of a recently deceased astronaut from Apollo 8 left them a message, an audio message telling those astronauts to enjoy the moment. A few more notes about it. Their menu is quite extensive. It's no master's menu like last week, but they did manage to include for the astronauts barbecued beef brisket, macaroni and cheese, butternut squash, cauliflower, almonds, and even tortillas.
The best part is, Paul, it's all in one little package.
It's all dehydrated.
Gross.
You just add water.
Yes, it's all... My brother-in-law, former Marine, got my 12-year-old at the time the whole deep, the packs and all the MREs and all that, and it was a great idea until he actually tried it.
And then a pretty touching moment, I'm sure you both saw this, one of the astronauts, Reed Wiseman, and crew named an unnamed crater on the moon after his late wife, Carol. So this is a crew that's been preparing for a long time together, and his wife passed away in 2020, which actually... I found so touching because now when he and his daughters look up to the moon, they will see their late wife and mom, which I thought was really special. One of those moments where you actually feel good about humanity and the things that we are doing.
So infrequent these days.
And so that's it on the moon. So moving on, I don't know if you guys saw this, unless you're living under a rock. J. Cole turned basketball professional.
I did see that.
The rapper, who's 41, signed a contract to play in the Chinese Basketball Association with the team whose mascot is the Monkey Kings. This is actually his third professional stint, and he's doing this while also preparing to go on tour for his new album in late July, which just tells me I am not doing enough with my 24 hours in a day.
So 2 years from now, LeBron will be playing in the Chinese Basketball Association as well.
He might be.
LeBron, he won't hang it up
and
till he's at least 50.
Our last point is that the handshake drama of the NFL transcends into women's college basketball.
Oh, yeah.
So Coach Gino with UConn and Dawn Staley with South Carolina in the semifinals. I was at that game. There was some drama at the end, and then we learned in the aftermath that Gino was upset. He reportedly waited 3 minutes at the logo pregame when you're supposed to have the unspoken ceremonial handshake between coaches. And then it got heated on the sideline at the end of the game, and he did not shake anyone's hands post-game. And people are wondering if that was to maybe take away from his team's performance and kind of take the pressure off of his athletes and put it onto him. He issued an apology the following day. Dawn Staley actually issued a statement Tuesday morning saying that's in the past, time to turn the page. I've talked to him. But she did make it very clear her pre- and post-game handshake with UCLA's head coach in the championship, showing that she was doing her handshakes. And you've been cultured, You're welcome.
Gino Auriemma, one word, haughty. So I like to see it. By the way, I did enjoy the speculation because I agree with it. Dawn Staley would be a heck of an NBA head coach.
See, I don't know, can't remember if I said it here, but I remember telling some of my friends when the Suns were looking for one, I'm like, I wouldn't mind them looking at Dawn Staley. Now, Jordan Ott has worked out very, very well. I'm not
sure about that.
Are you being serious?
Yes.
You're not a Jordan Ott guy?
Well, how have they been the last 2-3 months?
The last 2 or 3 months, they're still playing at a better clip than I thought this team was going to be able to do this year.
Okay. All right.
Wow. Okay.
The Ben Johnson, Matt LaFleur handshake drama is not just for the NFL.
It's true. That's true. And NFL Network went through some of the other dramatic post-game handshakes between head coaches all time. Chuck Noll wagging his finger in the face of, oh my gosh, the Falcons head coach, the flamboyant guy with a cowboy hat.
Jerry Glanville.
Jerry Glanville, yes. So Yeah, all very intriguing. Well, here's the deal. Speaking of social media and getting cultured, there was a YouTube comment. And speaking of LeBron, is that
there was
a
a
segue?
YouTube comment.
Is that a segue?
So look, the rule for what we
That
do
is a
is
segue.
to
That is
typically not read the comments, because more times than not, a lot of you are not very nice to us in the comments. But I did take a look at our most recent Cardinals Underground YouTube, and there was a comment from somebody who said that we are the best trio, LeBron, D. Wade, and Bosch in Miami. And I was wondering...
If it was your dad's burner?
No. My dad, I don't think, knows how to make a burner. And unfortunately now when he listens to this, he's going to ask me about it. Please, please don't. Who is LeBron in our group?
Who is LeBron?
How do we figure this out? Thumb war,
my
rock, paper,
gosh.
scissors, shoot?
I don't know.
Maybe the listeners can vote. You can let us know who's
Yes,
LeBron.
let's go in the YouTube comments and please put as
Kindly
your votes.
and
Who
appropriately.
is Bosch?
Yeah,
who is D. Wade? And who is LeBron?
You're guaranteeing I'm not going to read them now. It's absolute my whole mental fortitude. Oh boy, I'm not sure how this made the rundown. Somebody put in here, NFL is eliminating Monday Night Football doubleheaders. Is that really germane to anything regarding the Cardinals Underground in mid-April?
Well,
Just league
other than
news.
the fact that there seems to be speculation that one Dave Pasch could end up.
Oh, now we're talking. Now it's getting salacious.
We'll
Here
see
we
what
go.
happens. I know that they said that they're getting rid of the doubleheaders, so they're going to change up their number 2 football group in terms of who does play-by-play. So obviously there wouldn't be any Monday Night Football that you would need the number 2 ESPN group for, but there's a chance that ESPN, NFL, and NFLN, which is now being run by ESPN, if they need more international play-by-play people.
That's what Dave needs, actually, more international games. Make all 7 of those international games. That's exactly what Dave needs, is more frequent flyer miles. That's speaking of burners, did he ever get a social media account just tracking his travel? Remember there was a lot of interest in that? It was Mad Dog Russo, Chris Russo.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Who was always intrigued
I think
and talked
that-
about it on his national show.
I think that opportunity is yours for the taking, Paul.
The Dave
I know how
Pasch
much you
travel
love using
schedule.
social media.
That's right. I need to run multiple accounts. That would be good.
Speaking of burner accounts, where the heck is Dave Pasch?
Yeah. Okay. Where the heck is Fernando Mendoza when it comes to draft night? There's
Not
another
in
segue.
Pittsburgh.
What is going on with that?
He told the league he will be with his family in Miami. He will not be in Pittsburgh.
If I'm the league, I say, you know what? We'll bring your entire family up to the Berg. Come on. You got to get the number 1 pick overall on stage.
Yeah, I agree.
When was
I-
the last time the number 1 pick was not at the draft?
So Trevor Lawrence, apparently somebody looked that up.
Oh,
Trevor
okay.
Lawrence was not in attendance when he was the first pick overall. So, and I get it. Fernando Mendoza, incredibly tight with his family, and there was a great scene at the Heisman and the national championship game. And, I think he's going to be an unbelievable success on and off the field. I just think I watched him when he was at Cal before he even went to Indiana. It was a horrendous team around him, and he was still a dude.
Having Kirk Cousins, I think, is going to make a huge difference in Vegas for him.
Which, circling back to the Cardinals, is a reason I joke about Carson Beck, but presuming they're not going to be able to get Ty Simpson, whether they like him or not, I have no idea. But I do expect a rookie quarterback on day 2, maybe early on day 3, to be coming to the Arizona Cardinals, because you have Jacoby Brissett. And I think Gardner Minshew is a bit of a sleeper in terms of being a grinder and being really good in the room and with a young quarterback.
But that I would say that almost every year you're going to want to draft a rookie quarterback. One, you're going to need numbers. You're going to want young players. You're always trying to see if you can make something out. Like a Clayton Tune, a Keaton Slovis. You're always going to look into drafting a quarterback, especially day 3.
People aren't going to remember this now, but we're old enough, Paul. Ron Wolf, the former Packers GM, that used to be his deal, was I'm always going to take a young quarterback, and every year I'm going to take a young quarterback and see if something sticks. And there was a while there where the Packers, they didn't need a quarterback because they had Brett Favre, so they'd flip Mark Brunell, or they'd flip Matt Flynn, or they'd flip. There was somebody else in there that I'm drawing a blank on, but that they drafted and then ended up getting a pick higher than the pick they spent on the guy. And they didn't even keep Kurt Warner, who they had in camp too.
But there's a big difference between taking a quarterback round 5, 6, or 7 versus round 2, 3, or 4.
I mean, maybe.
5, 6, or 7 is just easy to dismiss as a practice squad or a camp arm. I mean, I'm talking about actually investing somewhat significantly in a rookie quarterback where you might be realistic to have actual expectations of. Whether it's a Carson Beck, a Garrett Nussmeier.
But the reality is, Paul, after you get past, to be honest, once you get past the second round, as when we're talking about quarterbacks, if you get past the second round, to me, there's not a lot of difference between round 5 and round 3. Because if you're a quarterback that's any good, you're gone by the second round. Everybody available after the second round, in my opinion, is essentially in the same boat. You don't have a lot of belief in them, because if you did, they would be one of those quote-unquote rising quarterbacks.
Yeah, but the top of round 3 for the Cardinals is 65 overall.
Okay.
Round 5 is 130-something. I mean, to me, that's a vast difference in
there's
in
a
quality,
vast difference in picks,
in
but
quality of player and/or pick.
But we're not talking about
investment.
where you're picking. I'm talking about the quarterbacks that are available. If a quarterback has got any real value to the league, he's not making it to the third round, in my opinion. Like that. You really think a quarterback that you're going to get at the beginning of the third is – you really
if you're going to use that logic, though, couldn't I say if you got a quarterback who's got any real value to the league, he's not making it past the middle of round 1. I mean, if you're saying a quarterback who has real value to the league is definitely not making it out of round 1.
Yeah, that's true.
It might not ever make – I mean, ever since Lamar Jackson, the end of round 1, that ain't ever going to happen again.
Well, okay, then who are we pointing at that you've taken in round 3 that has really been something?
Russell Wilson. I mean, there are guys, right?
Well, of course, there's always. I mean, if we want to talk about the 6th round, we'll talk Tom Brady. But you're only. Of course, there's always guys.
Yeah.
But what happens is you need to put it into perspective of. Let's look at all the guys that were picked in the third round, and then do the math from there. Not just pick the one guy who was successful.
I mean, the greatest example is Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant.
Of course, you're going to find guys.
There's some luck to a certain extent, though.
But I mean, that's where a GM earns their money. Right? I mean, you look beyond a certain shortcoming that makes a player at any position a non-round 1 or non-day 2 pick.
Okay. Let me ask you this question based on what you just said, though. Does John Lynch get credit for Brock Purdy? Does Bill Belichick get credit for Tom Brady? He went in the 6th round. You passed on him yourself 1 billion times.
Right.
So how are you getting credit for that?
You can argue that yourself. I didn't bring that up. What I'm saying is all I ever argued was that I fully expect the Cardinals to put significant resources into a rookie quarterback because I think the situation is ripe for one.
Maybe.
That's all I ever said.
I don't necessarily disagree. I'm just saying.
And I just disagreed with your take that if you're a quarterback worth your salt, you're not going to be there in round 3. Well, you wouldn't be there in round 2. You won't even be there at the end of round 1. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. And I don't disagree with you, but I guess my point is
I mean, the Niners took Trey Lance 3 overall, and then took Brock Purdy.
But that's
the last
what I'm
pick
saying.
of the draft.
So it is a crapshoot. So
obviously,
I guess my point is like
had nothing to do with their acumen.
You're just as likely to find that guy in round 5 as you are in round 3.
Yeah, that's where I
you diverge from me.
I totally disagree.
I understand that.
I mean, like for example, a Carson Beck, like just because I know a little bit about him, and he's recent. I mean, here's a guy who in 2024 was supposedly tracking to be the number 1 pick in the draft, then suffered the brutal injury, whether it was elbow or shoulder, and then ended up staying 1 more year, then ended up going to Miami because he still didn't think he was ready. So there are extenuating circumstances like on a Carson Beck. That's all I'm saying. That if otherwise, easily, without that injury, could have been a round 1 pick. That's all I'm saying on something like that.
And I'm guessing it would have turned out to be a mistake.
Perhaps.
Because all he did was have to show himself more. I mean, Matt Leinart, if he doesn't stay in school 1 more year, probably would have been the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, a lot of people thought he did himself a disservice in terms of the draft.
I probably did.
Yeah. Instead of being number 1 overall, he went 10th.
Sure,
next
he was
year.
making enough money at USC, Paul.
So,
he was living the life.
Yeah.
You were part of that. You were part of the Matt Leinart glitterati.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on that. I think we have done a whole podcast.
We probably have.
Some of the Matt Leinart fans driving 7 hours from L.A. for a 1-hour radio show. Yeah. That's and then having him needing security to get out the back door. He couldn't even mingle in that sports bar.
That's true. To bring this somewhat all the way full circle, but I did want to almost look this up for us. Ray Guy went 23rd overall in the first round.
There you go.
So my question is, A, was Mel Kiper mocking Ray Guy in the first round in 1973? And B, if your team took a punter at 23 overall, what would Twitter look like these days?
Well, this kid, Brett Thorson, is thought to be perhaps a round 3 pick. So, yeah, how do you think social media reacts if a punter goes round 3?
Will Brett Thorson be chosen before Carson Beck? People want to know.
Oh, that's a good one. We can't really bet, but that's a good one we could.
No, but it's definitely going to be brought up again after the draft. I'm sure Paul will make sure I know when Carson Beck goes in the late second round.
Well, the Bears took a punter in round 5 who was supposed to be all that 2 years ago. Because I remember, on the sideline, I was looking for him when Cardinals-Bears 2 years ago. I'm like, wait a minute.
Of course he was looking for him.
The punting phenom, where is he? I want to see the pregame. Forget about the field goal kickers pregame.
I know you pplayed safety. Did you punt too?
I did not punt. No, I did not.
She has a deep respect
do
and
you have a
admiration
punter
for
in your
special
family?
teams.
I don't know. There's something about the oohs and the ahs being on the sideline and you're watching the punt.
Trying to not get kicked in the head back there.
Yeah, exactly.
Paul doing a podcast with Chris Cluey.
Do you think the league can't do anything? Kind of going back to Mendoza not being there, they can't do anything about him being there, but I'm sure they're not happy with the look of this. Of Roger Goodell's going to be out there by himself when the number 1 pick is called.
I don't think they're worried about the look as much as they're disappointed that he's not there. But Larry Fitzgerald didn't go to the draft. He was not there. I remember that.
Well, 2 words: appearance fee. Is that something the NFL needs to come up with to get Fernando Mendoza in attendance? Right? I don't know.
Are you doing NIL for the draft now, Paul? Is that what's happening?
They need a sponsor to step up and sponsor his trip to the draft. That's what they need. So that's cool. It's just more
Who wouldn't want to go to Pittsburgh?
Right. It's just more spotlight for Sonny Styles when he's up on stage.
That's true.
I don't.
Boy, the Raiders taking Sonny Styles. That'd be a pick.
That would be good.
Wait a minute. Wasn't that what draft day was about? Taking the inside linebacker first overall?
Oh, Kevin Costner?
I watch that movie. I haven't seen it.
Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman.
It actually is. I would say, and I might really be going on a limb on this, I'd say it is worth your time. It's not nearly as bad as it's portrayed to be.
Okay.
Draft day.
It's an interesting, if you're willing, okay. I don't want to spoil anything for you.
No spoilers.
There's
some good characters in there.
I like the characters. There is a major willing suspension of disbelief.
Yes,
no
is.
Spoilers.
Yes. It's so... Okay.
Probably a few of them, but.
All right. Well, look, I'll just leave you with this. I don't know if Darren saw this headline because it actually included an exclamation point in the headline on NFL.com.
Oh, he loves those.
5-round mock, 4 trades in round 1, exclamation point, 2 QBs among the first 16. That was the entire headline on NFL.com. Quite a mouthful for a headline.
That is.
Where did the second QB go?
It was Ty Simpson to the Jets, 16th overall. Yes. So there you go. And I told myself, no way I'm clicking on that. I'm not doing it. And then I clicked on it and I read it.
Well, speaking of clicks, remember to let us know who's LeBron, who's D. Wade, and who gets Chris Bosh.
Who gets Chris? Chris Bosh was an
They all
all-star.
played important roles.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. That'll do it for Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.